It's a new year and already reported cases of armed robbery appears to be raising concerns that violent gun-related crimes are gaining grounds in Ghana. Early this morning at around 3:30, a group of armed men attacked and robbed passengers on a Kumasi-bound bus from Trifopraso. And a couple of weeks ago, the Abrepo branch manager of EcoBank was shot dead in his home in Kumasi when armed robbers broke in to steal his flat-screen TV and some cash. So what's making it increasingly easy for arms to find its way into illicit hands? Are we in danger of being overwhelmed by proliferation of small arms? My name is Stephen Anti, and this is today's big story. Well, the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms has a mandate, among other things, to control small arms, its stockpile and management. But in the context of the rising wave of gun-related crimes, it appears we're losing control and allowing arms to fall into wrong hands. How did we get here? I am having into the studio now the Executive Secretary of the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms, Jones Aple, to have a discussion on the matter. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, Mr. Anti, and good evening to your viewers and listeners. Well, I know it's not everybody that is viewing. There are other people who are using
That's right.
the TV to just listen to. Good evening to you and Happy New Year to all of you.
Right, so how are you feeling with the news that armed robbery appears to be gaining grounds? I know we don't have the police statistics to firmly indicate that armed robbery is on the rise or not, but it does appear that the use of small arms in gun-related crimes is going up. How do you feel about that?
Okay, thank you very much. On the contrary, it is really declining rather.
I see.
If we look at the statistics, we are doing well in terms of combating crime. Of course, nobody is happy even if one person loses his life through the usage or illicit proliferation of small arms as a gun control agency. And so, I mean, with that, is a concern for all of us. But in terms of the statistics, I think we are rather doing well.
We're doing well.
We are doing
so
well
I mean, a few reported cases does not actually suggest that we are being overwhelmed.
Let me try and give you a brief background of what is influencing some of these things. You know, guns are like magnets. They go to places where there's demand. You understand? And so, but most of these weapons that you find in Ghana are weapons that probably might have been used in some conflict theaters in Ghana, I mean within West Africa or Africa. So once your country becomes a calm place and a country that is developing, then you realize that some of these, we call them conflict entrepreneurs. They find a way of coming to your country to come and destabilize or disturb your peace.
So let me get it correct, conflict entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So the idea is that the small arms that are finding their way into illicit hands are coming in because people are using those arms for conflicts, and after the conflicts, or when they finish using it, it ends up in the hands of the criminals. Well, I mean, those who perpetrate conflicts are criminals.
Yes. I mean, as I said, these are people who benefit. These are people who derive a lot of revenue from conflicts. So anytime conflicts are waging, they are getting more money. And so they enjoy things like that. Now, if you know the nature and characteristics of small arms, these are easily conciliable. They are very durable. They don't easily get spoiled. If a small arms that has been used in any theater, I tell you what, even small arms that were used in the First World War can still be used today. Some of the weapons, AK-47 for example, it can be buried in the soil for sometimes even 20, 30 years. Just take it and dip it in an oil. You pick it and it's firing. So these are weapons that are tough. These are weapons that are durable. These are things that don't easily get spoiled.
So it means you're not doing your work well? You're not detecting them? They're going underground and you don't know about them?
No, there are so many things that are influencing them. I mean, for example, you know more than I do.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know more than you do.
I mean, oh no, it manifests, it manifests itself in so many. If you look at the nature of borders that we have, it poses a lot of challenge
to
and
us.
So that, yes, I mean to all of us in the sub-region. So there are a lot of things that we are doing as a country, at the sub-region, West Africa, even at the international level, to control guns. Because look, guns are the single most dangerous source of weapons that can destabilize every good effort that every country or government is undertaking.
Right, I'll have you hold briefly, and I'm joined on the other telephone line by Emmanuel Bombande, who is Executive Director of the West African Network for Peace Building. Mr. Bombande, good evening, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me greet you and greet all your viewers and listeners. But let me also take this opportunity to say that I'm now the former executive director.
I see.
Effective this week, I have stepped aside as the executive director of WANEM.
That's good to hear. So you have a new role?
I'm in transition.
You're in transition. That's good to hear. So now, I know that you've done a lot of work on the ground when it comes to small arms and the use of it, and how easily these small arms are getting into the hands of people who would use them illegally. What kind of picture can you create about the situation on the ground currently in Ghana?
First of all, I want to compliment your earlier panelist. I did not get to hear his name at the time you got me. The fact on the ground, if you were to look at it in terms of the statistics, I totally share in his analysis that the numbers are declining. But keep in mind that it is the nature now and the dynamics accompanying the type of violent activity which weighs heavily in terms of its impact on us. And what I mean by that is, when a gun is used in robbery, it goes along with the violence that accompanies the crime. And so it's not just violating somebody's right by dispossessing that person of their belongings and their money, but it is a psychological impact and the trauma that person suffers as a result of the weapon that was used and the manner in which the robbery happened. So that even if the robbery was not even successful, even if the police were able to apprehend, by virtue of the fact that small arms are involved, it impacts on the psyche and it traumatizes, it destabilizes.
That's right.
And to that extent, every incident counts as if to say that there were 100 happening, even if in terms of the statistics, the numbers are declining.
So do you agree that gun-related crimes are becoming more problematic? I mean, Mr. Jones Appler, who is Executive Secretary of the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms, is suggesting that, well, you've also corroborated what he said, that the use of small arms in these crimes are actually coming down. But it's becoming worrying that every now and then when crimes are committed, they're committed with people who are wielding sophisticated guns. AK-47 this morning, 3 a.m. was used. I mean, a group of armed robbers, 4 of them, ambushed travelers, passengers on a bus from Chifopraso to Kumasi and robbed them of their possession. Shot indiscriminately, 1 person was wounded. It's worrying for us, I mean, ordinary people who do not have any other means to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. And I like the way you have described it. And that's just the picture I was painting. I was talking about when weapons are used, as you have described, as an AK-47. A lot goes at the level of the psychological damnation to create the type of trauma that we all feel. Even if you were not a victim, just listening to the news alone can traumatize you. One, look at the audacity of the people wielding those guns to stand on a major road, block a bus, and rob passengers. So it's not just the robbery, but it is the new trend in which people feel that they can confront the state and its rules and dispossess individuals who are going about their duty in the way that they have done it.
Right.
Not to mention the type of injuries that normally come along with these types of violent crimes. And to that extent, therefore, just one incident, as you have painted, it's not about their frequency in terms of numbers, but just the fact that it happened is enough for it to be a concern and truly worrying as you have described.
Right, Mr. Bombande, I'll have you hold, and we come back to the studio. Mr. Play, Bombande has virtually been saying the same things you're saying, but I'm curious that as a person who wants to feel safe and protected in the country, I want to believe that state institutions like yourself, the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms, I want to get assurances from you that you're doing enough to protect me and that you're also doing enough to monitor the inflow and outflow of small arms into our country. You're not doing this enough, are you?
That has been done. That has been done at the highest level that you can think of. I mean, just to supplement what Mr. Bombande said, you see, when it comes to gun matters and gun crime, it's a mixture, it's a whole gamut of problems that is influencing that social, economic, political. I mean,
a lot of things.
A lot of
conflict within communities over land.
So all these things fuel the demand for the proliferation. But what is a lot has been done at the. For example, I believe you are aware of the scanners that were installed at our ports.
Yes.
I mean, well, it's not only there to check only narcotics. If somebody is coming with any contraband, and if you see cigarettes, small arms, you will detect it. But you see, when some of these social problems are happening in our society, we all take a cue. Look, controlling contraband is the same strategy or modus operandi that the people use to import or deal in narcotics. The same thing they
smuggle
guns.
I see.
And so we learn from each other. Currently, if you look at the conversation or if you look at the discourse on narcotics, people are asking, look, narcotics are not produced in Ghana. How do they get in?
Guns are also not produced in Ghana. So how do they get?
The industrialized weapons that you find are not produced in Ghana. How do they get into?
But they're registered dealers who bring it in and go through the process of security clearance and everything to be able to sell these guns.
They import what we call the civil categorized weapon. These are the pump actions and the double barrel.
So if I want a gun for myself, I do not qualify to get a pump action?
You do qualify for it, but pump action gives you only 6 rounds. Okay, that's not the kind of weapons those Fulani herdsmen are using. They are using the proper
more sophisticated.
Those are weapons that are not sold on the open market to me and you, civilian. These are weapons that are sold to countries to defend citizens and to defend the territorial integrity of countries. But these things get diverted from state stockpiles through various corrupt officials, through sometimes at the ports, sometimes weak scanning systems, weak stockpile management process. Now, what has been done in Ghana since we are home? At the national level, what has been done by the Small Arms Commission to curtail the movement of assault weapons? That is what we are concerned about. Of course, we are concerned about even the tear buffers and other things. But for now, our worry is on the one that can unleash a lot of pain,
terror,
lethality, big terror. So we are looking at the AK-47, the G3s, etc. What has been done now is that every weapon that is in Ghana, the ECOWAS Convention, Article 18 says that for every country, mark every weapon that you have on your territory as per a certain code, so that when it is found anywhere, it can really be traced to wherever it was leaked from. So we have embarked upon that.
So I mean, what I infer from that is that you're telling me that a lot is being done from your commission and from other government stakeholders to ensure that the problem does not overwhelm us.
Yes.
But are we losing control?
We are not losing control. I mean, look at almighty America with all their sophistication, with all the law enforcement capacity and capability that they have. Look at the level of gun crime. If someone is going to commit a crime using a gun, how would you know? It's a psychosocial problem, you understand? But what you have to do as a country is that you always find a way of minimizing some of these things. These are not things that you can avoid completely as a country. Occasionally there are flashes here. Of course, law enforcement is not everywhere. You're talking about some road in some deep night somewhere. The police will do their best to
but they cannot be everywhere. So I will return to you and you tell me what precautions. I mean, I know that I'm asking you as the boss of a commission which is expected to manage the stockpile that enters our country, etc. But I'm sure you can also tell us how as individuals who will behave or conduct ourselves to feel safe when we're confronted with gun crimes. Mr. Bombande, if you are there, I'll put the same question I put to him to you. Do you feel that as a country, whether from the angle of the Small Arms Commission or from civil society groups like ONEP or West African Network on Small Arms, or any of the civil society groups together as a unit. I do not want to put blames on any particular individual or institutions. Do you feel that we're doing enough to, one, curtail the inflow and proliferation of small arms, and especially, like Jones is saying, sophisticated assault weapons?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, my compliments to Jones. Let me say this. Whatever we are doing is not enough precisely because of the context and the dynamics of our region. Pete Jones made reference to the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms, which basically is supposed to provide us a coordinated effort looking at the context of our region, in which we talk every day about the porosity of our borders. So it doesn't matter what our Small Arms Commission is doing together with civil society in Ghana, as long as the corresponding effort in the region, particularly our neighboring countries, is not measuring up to our effort, we are just simply not able to deal with this particular
So
problem.
what happens there depends on what happens here also. If, for example, they are not putting in sufficient checks and measures to ensure that guns will not leave their territory into ours, we have nothing we can do?
Exactly. Precisely because what we succeed in doing is negated by the proliferation happening in the immediate neighborhood and the region as a whole. And that is where you then link it to also the dynamics of conflict in the region, because there are attractive factors that lure and bring in these weapons. So that when you look at the rise in violent extremism, the laundering of money that is basically making money available to purchase these illegal weapons, not to mention the young people who are recruited to fight these extremist wars, you then begin to see the dynamics that impact on us and how, by the nature of our borders, it becomes virtually impossible to curtail to a large extent.
Virtually impossible. Mr. Bombande, that's a serious matter. Virtually impossible. What happens in Togo? What happens in Burkina Faso? We can't do anything about it? We just sit and watch the arms pour into our country? That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that's scary. I share the concern of Mr. Bombande. I mean, they have been in the field for a very long time, but we can also throw our hands in the prayer. I mean, for the gun control is a transnational organized crime. So that's why it's a big issue. It's almost, it crosses borders. So that's what we said. But we can't, I mean, what can be done, or what is being done, is encouraging various conversation and discourse. We have committees of IGPs, we have chief of defense staff and meetings at the ECOWAS level.
You do everything possible
we are
within
doing
our country.
At every level to make sure that we curtail this single most important weapon that can degenerate and that can mar our development. So various conversations are taking place.
Are you able to assure me that I shouldn't be afraid?
Oh no, why you
as a citizen of this country? I mean, I've gone home one day and got into my gate.
This COP you will know every day, and you see what he's doing. He's doing fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Kofi Boachi is also doing a very fantastic job. The whole thing about gun, the mobile phone that you are holding today has a certain marking on it, so that when it even found anywhere, it can easily be traced to where it was manufactured from. That is something that we want to do in Ghana. We want all those weapons that are brought into Ghana, their proper marking, properly captured, so that when we see, we know that the weapon was given to...
And you're doing that? And
yes,
I mean, you as a commission in working relationship with the other stakeholders are doing that?
We are doing... Actually, the information, we are gathering it little by little. The information is also there. Look, we've had gun records in Ghana since 1936, but these are paper records. So sometimes even retrieving it for crime detection and for crime analysis is even laborious. The way to go now is some level of automation. Let's bring some. So that is, we are migrating the information, and that is going to help in some of this, the management of this.
Right, Mr. Player, I'll have you hold. But now there is also concern with civil society groups saying that the lack of proper and effective surveillance on ex-convicts who appear largely to be the category of criminals involved in recent surge of violent gun crimes is a major issue. Now, how is the is that perceived to be affecting crime? I'm joined on the other line now by Nanaya Akwada, who is Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. Good evening, Nanaya, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, good evening to you, and good evening to Mr. Bombandi.
So quickly,
and the other colleague from the commission.
Right, so quickly, surveillance of ex-convicts. How does this add to the problem or subtract from it?
Well, basically, research all over the world have shown that people who perpetrate violent crime are usually people who have, at one point or the other, perpetrated similar events before,
right,
or relatively lesser violent crimes.
So people who have experience in that area.
Yes, or people who have served jail terms
before,
for one crime or the other. What the Bureau of Public Safety is pushing for is an effective and a functional criminal conviction database for the Ghana police. We believe that to a large extent, once we have such a thing in place, we will be able to, as it were, track people who are, let me call them for the benefit of this discussion, returning criminals.
Returning criminals.
Able to track them, we'll be able to give them a certain sense of insecurity so that we can take away the kind of courage and the impunity that they use in perpetrating violent crime.
I want to cut you. I mean, I do know how the security system works in our country, and I must say that there is evidence to suggest that criminals who come to security notice are fairly monitored by the system. I mean, the system makes sure that we put surveillance taps on them to check where they go from now and then, time to time, although sometimes some of these surveillance systems are not covert, you know. But so are you saying that they're not happening, or they're not good enough to the extent that the system allows returning criminals to repeat their crimes or commit more serious crimes?
Well, Stephen, at the risk of dragging this discussion into a banter, I would ask you to get someone from the police service.
The police service, yeah. I mean,
share with us.
I'm sorry, but we are not able to get the police service. They didn't agree to speak to us on this issue. They have
in for people who have been convicted for violent crime. How functional it is? How is it computerized? Elsewhere, people who have been convicted for violent crime, they have their temperament, they have their addresses, they track them, they are mandated to notify the police wherever they move in terms of addresses. And
sometimes tracking devices are tied to their body in order to make it possible that their movement is monitored.
But that would be asking for too much for a country like Ghana. But what we are asking for is the basic. So that if a crime scene team goes to a crime scene, at least they are able to pick certain basic information, whether forensic or evidential, or trace. They are able to pick these basic information, and when
right, Nana, I'll have you hold. You've made your point very clear, and I'll go to Bombande. I'm sure Mr. Bombande is still online. Mr. Bombande, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Good. So, I mean, let me paraphrase what Nana Akwada just said, that he feels, and his civil society group feels, that the inability of the police service and other security agencies to put in effective, functional surveillance system of ex-convicts, returning criminals, is also partly to blame for this problem. Do you see this as a major problem, too?
Let me say that I share in Nana's perspectives, and I even add on to what Nana has said, that implicitly we are also seeing the lack of effective coordination, looking at the different mandates of our different state institutions and who is supposed to do what to be part of the challenge. For example, who is the one in the forefront of the public education in regards what we must do to curtail the proliferation of small arms in our community?
Is it the Commission on Small Arms?
Is it the Commission of Small Arms? Is it the police? Now we have a community policing unit. Who exactly and how do these agencies speak to one another, coordinate their efforts so that there is a comprehensive approach in how we are dealing effectively with all these types of challenges? So Nana has implicitly also raised the issue of effective coordination.
Effective coordination. Mr. Bombande, I'll hold you briefly. We're having a very interesting discussion, and I'm learning quite a lot from experts like yourself and Bombande. Now, coordination. You are telling me that a lot is being done. Is there proper coordination among the various units, the police service, the IGP, or whatever groups that are working in this to make sure that our lives are safe?
To the extent that we all meet at various, we talk to each other, the various heads of agency meeting under the Ministry of Interior. There's some level of coordination. But I'm saying that in every sphere, you can always up your game. You can always strengthen.
So you can do better. You agree that we can all do better as a country?
We can. And when it comes to this surveillance thing that is shared, it's a concern.
Big concern.
I believe it has been a concern even for the prison service. That look, they need to monitor. You know, now we are even trying to encourage non-custodial sentencing as part of that. You want to do probation and all those things. So it means that you have to find a way, get money as a country to do some of these things.
Where do we get the money from? Budgetary allocations. the government must fund these things. These are security issues. No, tell me. Let me just pin you down. For 2014 up to today, the National Commission on Small Arms, what have you been doing?
We have been, first of all, we have been into reviewing our law.
Reviewing which law?
The law that we have on gun control.
Which elements of it were you reviewing?
We were trying
how people buy arms and guns?
Even the age, we were intending, the current age is 18. We were intending to take it to 21. We wanted to introduce the concept of the psychoanalysis, the proficiency training.
Before one can buy a gun. If I want to buy a gun, I submit my name and my biodata for that kind of scrutiny.
Exactly, and there's a whole lot.
But these are the direct means of buying. What about the indirect means? What about the illegal means? The purchases through the back door. You're forgetting about those too?
Yeah, one thing about the illicit market and everything is that once you don't know, you can't do anything about it. There are illicit trade in cigarettes, there are illicit trade in human beings. What you know, you can control.
You do it.
As an officer, you can only control what is in the public. Of course, because of intelligence and surveillance, you also have your ears in the underworld. So then, from time to time, you mount operations, and then you can find a way of.
So you have your ears in the underworld?
Why not? Well, you can't do such without having.
Are you confident we're on top of this?
No, but Ghana, you've seen what's happening around us, or what has happened around. Look at Cote d'Ivoire, look at Liberia, look at Syria.
So relatively
look at
we have
Burkina Faso,
sufficient stability.
So the security agencies are very much on top. We are very much on top of the game when it comes to gun control. But as for gun issues and some of these matters, I'm not saying, and nobody should quote me wrongly, occasionally they flare up. The ability of your system to manage the challenge is what is very critical. And I believe in Ghana. But have you seen any drug person confronting any of our state institutions in any gun battle when it comes to arrest? Have you seen that in Ghana? Go to other countries. Go to Jamaica. Go to other countries.
Colombia.
Go to Colombia.
Even Brazil.
They actually challenge law enforcement agencies, army, police. Have you seen something like that in Ghana? So it tells you. But I'm saying that, look, you can always strengthen. You can always up your game. But I've always said, there's one argument before I leave here. I want to say, I've told our big people that, look, we inherited this gun culture from the British. Britain, after a while, they've banned civilian ownership. Is that a way Ghana wants to go?
Should we?
Yeah, Mr.
Bombande, if you're there, I'll quickly wrap with you. We don't have a lot of time. Mr. Jones Appler is raising a key issue. Perhaps we should be considering banning civilian ownership of guns. Is that the way forward?
It is absolutely the way forward, accompanied with the necessary type of education about the best forms of personal safety. And let me quickly say this. You see, there's always a false assumption that I am secure because I have a gun. But that is not true. Without talking for long, I'm sure you followed the example 2 days ago in the United States. The small child who shot the mother, he put the hands in the mother's handbag while they were in the supermarket shopping for Christmas, saw a gun, pulled it out and shot the mother. But she thought she was secured with the gun. But she lost her life because she had the gun in her bag. So we must have that in question. And quickly to end, if you give me 30 seconds, I want to borrow from the Ebola experience. You see Patrick Sawyer, who went to Nigeria, and Ebola went to Nigeria. You know, he was sanctioned to go to Nigeria by the Ministry of Finance, but he was on the watch list of the Ministry of Health of Liberia. So the Ministry of Health banned him from traveling. The Ministry of Finance gave him the access to go. And that is what I call how a country can suffer when there is no effective coordination. Amongst governmental agencies.
Mr. Bombande, I'm afraid our time is up and we have to go. Thank you very much for your time. Bombande is the former executive director of West African Network for Peace Building. Mr. Jones-Apley, I'm ending with you. I've had a great interaction with you and a lot of learning. Way forward. You have suggested that perhaps we should be thinking about reviewing gun ownership. What else should we be thinking about doing?
Oh, we should try and sensitize, as it says, try and sensitize our populace about how to deal with some of these gun issues. Look, I tell you, 99.9% of crime puzzles that have been solved in the world they are solved through citizens volunteering information,
and they are vigilant.
That is something that we need to encourage, in addition to any other thing that we are doing, because the whole thing is demand and supply. You understand?
So I mean, we know people within our communities who are buying and stashing arms.
We are curtailing demand. We want to find a way of imposing most restrictions on who can own the firearms.
Mr. Apley, I'm afraid that our time is up. We have to run. My name is Stephen Enten. Thanks for staying with us on today's Big Story. We were running with a discussion, very interesting one, but we'll be back with an interactive segment. Do stay.